if you bluff, or rather, if your opponent knows you don't bluff, it becomes a lot easier for him to play well against you. When you bet, he can accurately assign your hand range to most of the hands that are betting for value, and pretty easily figure out where his holding fits into that range, and make the correct decision to call or fold or raise. But if you're bluffing, he has to factor in the probability that you don't have anything, and sometimes he's going to make some real marginal calls with weak hands, and hopefully you'll have a pretty good sense on what his thought process is, and you can adjust your bluffing frequencies. If he's calling a lot, you can back off on the bluffs, or if he's almost always folding, you can ramp up the bluffs until he adjusts and starts calling too much, then you can back him down and value bet, a higher percentage of the time and whatnot. So, I'm not going to go over real basic bluffs here. Obviously, there are continuation bets post-flop when you flop nothing, and most people have these things down pretty well. One thing I am going to go over real quick is how you calculate the necessary percentage, for a bluff to be immediately profitable without taking into consideration metagame aspects. So, let's do that. So I'm going to use a hand history to explain this, a hand replayer to explain this concept. This is just a hand I made up. It's not real, I didn't play it, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so we're playing 10k head up. It's me against, some random opponent. I open with ace 10 on the button. He calls. The flop misses completely. I bet. Now, we're going to simplify this example, and maybe I should have chosen different hole cards, but we're going to assume that every time he calls, I lose. Obviously, sometimes I'll have the best hand, sometimes I'll improve to an ace, sometimes I'll bluff him out later, etc., etc. But every time he calls, I lose. So, how often does he need to fold for this bet to show an immediate profit? Well, the answer is it's the ratio of your bet size to the pot plus your bet size. So, we can figure out the percentage by pulling out a calculator, and it's 450 divided by 1050. He needs to fold about 43% of the time. Now, if I change my bet size a little bit, and I bet, say, the full pot, see if I can bring this up. Same hand, I raise it, he calls, check. I bet the full pot. Now he needs to fold 600 divided by 600 plus 600, or 1200. 50% of the time. Obviously, you bet in the pot, he's full 50% of the time, because 50% of the time you win 600, 50% of the time you lose 600, you break even. So, if I'm betting the full pot, he has to fold 50% of the time or more for me to show an immediate profit. Anyway, pretty basic stuff, but I thought I would get this out of the way in the beginning, just so we're all on the same page.